Carter made up his mind to leave his hometown, change the villagers' perception of him. Carter took the sanitary napkins he had made to a factory to test the composition of the sanitary napkins, and found out that they were not cotton at all, but contained a lot of fibers, and that's the reason why he failed to make them. Carter went to a famous professor in the area to learn, but the professor didn't teach him to learn, but instead, he showed him the process of sanitary napkin production, and told him to spend a few $1,000,000 to buy a machine to automate the production. The professor's message was clear: he couldn't do it on his own. Trying to make sanitary napkins was a joke, but Carter watched the video over and over again. He realized that there were 4 steps in the production process: mixing, pressing, killing, and packaging. Carter's mind was blown. All of this could be replaced by a small machine. Carter excitedly told the professor he wouldn't give up for women's health, decided to develop his own sanitary napkin machine, purchased materials with all my savings, rented a shabby warehouse. With his skill, after repeated failures, finally made a production line. Mixed, compressed, sterilized, and packaged. The first standardized process made the pads were officially born, but the old problem came again: who to try the finished product. The next day, Carter immediately called his wife, but as soon as he heard that it was about sanitary napkins, she hung up the phone. Carter's heart was in a state of ashes. Everything seemed meaningless. All his struggles seemed meaningless. That night, fate suddenly came. The white car sped past, but then backed up. There was a beautiful rich girl in the car. After 2 girls explained, the girl in the car had her period, drove around looking for a store, asked if he had any women at home. Could he provide some feminine products? Carter, like magic, immediately pulled out a pack of pads. The girl looked at Carter strangely. This man actually carries around feminine products, but in an emergency there was not much communication. The girl left in a panic. Carter turned around and showed the joy of harvesting. The next day, Carter came to the girl and asked her if the sanitary napkins were any good. The girl wondered and told him about them. What's so good about them? Carter was in tears when he heard about them. This proves that his pads are exactly the same as the ones in the store. He had succeeded at last, but the girl was incredulous when she heard about it. Curiosity-driven tour of the production process. Seeing these simple assembly lines could make a product that would revolutionize women's lives. The girl was fascinated by Carter's talent and courage, and encouraged him to participate in an invention convention to be held in a couple of days, where the first place would be rewarded with a prize of $100,000. He brought the machine to the venue and excitedly told the audience that imported sanitary napkins were very expensive and were unaffordable to the average woman, but the pads that he had made were only sold at 2 rupees and were available to everyone. The jury was blown away. A problem that the whole country had failed to solve. A guy who never went to college solved the problem. Sure enough, Carter won first prize. That's how he came to be known as the Pad Warrior. The girl was so impressed that she filed a patent for the man, and with this patent alone, Carter will be the richest man in the history of the family. At just 2 rupees, it quickly took over the market. Carter recruited some housewives and physically challenged people. He recruited them to produce the pads, gave them a salary. He made the women's lives more dignified and more independent. Processing plants were opened in countless villages. Slowly, more and more rural women became self-reliant. Carter's story even took the country by surprise. Was invited to speak in the capital city of New Delhi. Carter was applauded by the audience as he shared his story. Meanwhile, his wife, who had run away from his family, saw Carter every day in the newspapers and on the television. Knew her husband had succeeded. He had become a big celebrity.